Good morning, Kfar Ganim Church congregation. I'm going now to bear a sermon about persecutions which make man's faith lesser. I have gone through the entire New Testament to prove that persecution leads to a decrease in the faith of believers, and not as I was taught that they strengthen the faith. Acts 15, verses 1, 3, and 5. 1 to 3 and 5. The people were persecuted in Judea because of the faith, because of the persecutions that happened from the stoning of Stephen. Acts 8, verses 1 to 3, talking about because of their faith decrease, and they thought that every believer should be circumcised because of their persecutions. Then their faith dropped, and Shaul and Barnabas had to correct them, and those they had misled. The sermon focused on non-new believers, more than 1 year in the faith, who, because of the persecutions, have declined in faith. 1 Corinthians, all chapter 8. Here we are talking about believers who lost their property because they were believers, and then, to save money, they resorted to eating idolatrous sacrifices in temples. The persecutions, they were persecuted indirectly because their other believers to fall in faith. I mean that the other believers saw them eating in a temple, and then they turned out from the faith. They thought that their friend are not full in the faith in Jesus Christ. The others thought they were idolatrous too. Verses 11. Then the others left the faith. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 29-30. Verse 29. The people of the Corinthians were persecuted and lost their possessions. Poverty, hunger, and disease struck them. Some also died at the hands of the persecutors. Some died from diseases. The believers there were not strong in Corinth, and thought that a family member or a friend who was not baptized could go to hell. To prevent this, some believers were baptized for those close to them who died, so that their beloved shall come to faith. Verse 30. Paul criticized them for this. The issue is binary, either 0 or 1. Either the dead is saved or not. If the dead person is not saved, even though he had believed, he actually didn't believe, it will not help if you are baptized for him. He will not rise from the dead to heaven. And if he is saved, the baptized person does something unnecessarily for the dead. This upset Paul because all the time the apostles are persecuted and in danger of their lives, and seem to lead to nothing. Some believers were made even weaker, so that you do what is right, even though we may seem to have failed. And verse 8, for we cannot do anything against the truth, but only for the truth. 9, we are glad whenever we are weak, but you are strong, and our prayer is that you may be fully restored. 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 7b to 9. What Paul means in those verses is that it is better for me to be physically weak, so that the Corinthian believers be strong in faith, because they didn't stand the test of persecution and became weak. Verse 7 in the end. They are also weak because of the persecutions. Paul allows here to 2 tests that they didn't meet, because he speaks twice about the test. From verse 5, the test of knowing what true faith is, and the test of persecution. Another chapter is the second and the first of the Thessalonians. The Thessalonians suffered many persecutions over a long period of time. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 verses 6 to 7, chapter 2 verses 14, chapter 3 verses 4, 5, 6. 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 verses 4 to 8. Few members of the congregation lost faith due to the persecutions. They started not to work and done nonsense. Psalm 32 verses 6 to 12 talking about it. So Paul warned the whole community, all congregation, and tells them how to behave with those who had fallen in the faith. Timotheus, chapter 3, verses 12 and 13. Paul clearly says that some of the believers who will be persecuted, evil and reprobate by nature, will become more evil. That if one was evil in itself, it will become more evil and will further decline in faith because of the persecution. Persecutions are like a test. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 to 19. If you pass it, you will strengthen in faith. And if you will not pass it, you will decline in faith. Whether you like it or not, there is the Calvinist principle of election here. A person chosen by God starts out good or bad. The bad will deteriorate in faith, and the good will be very, very successful. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 15. Only let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as a doer of evil, or as a meddler in the affairs of others. He who gets to death because persecutions become a thief, steals from those who give him credit, and he needs to pay back his debts quickly. Otherwise, he falls in faith because of those persecutions, and is considered a sinner who steals.